Students clashing with each other, attacking one another with bricks and sharp weapons. These are scenes from a university campus in Bangladesh. The youth wing of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party was trying to recruit students at the Khulna University of Engineering and Technology when fierce clashes broke out between them and campus members of Students Against Discrimination, or ADSM. 150 students were injured. ADSM is the same protest group that spearheaded protests against the then Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in August 2024. But such scenes don't shock anymore. Hello and welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm Unman Bhattacharya. Let's connect the dots of the evolving situation in Bangladesh. Unrest is the new reality of today's Bangladesh, where rioters, arsonists and religious persecutors run amok, and the Muhammad Yunus-led interim government turns a blind eye. From the toppling of Bangladesh founder Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's statue to the razing of his historic home-turned-museum from where he declared Bangladesh's independence from Pakistan in 1971, from protesters agitating for the ouster of Bangladesh President Muhammad Shahabuddin to widespread vandalism and targeted attacks on religious minorities and political rivals. Bangladesh has turned into a tinder box waiting to explode. What's more, political attacks are getting shriller by the day. Sheikh Hasina, who has been living in exile in India since her 16-year rule ended in August, accuses Yunus of unleashing terrorists and destroying Bangladesh. She told widows and children of police officers who were killed in violent anti-government protests of July and August 2024 that she will return and take revenge for their deaths. This was Yunus government's response. So what are the options before India? Well, an extradition treaty was signed between India and Bangladesh in 2013. But under Article 6 of the treaty, extradition can be denied if the alleged offence is of a political nature. Article 8 of the treaty allows a denial too if the accusation is not made in good faith in the interests of justice. So if India decides to deny extradition, it might invoke those clauses. Now see this. Muhammad Yunus can be seen here on a tour of the so-called secret prisons, also called Aina Ghar or House of Mirrors in Dhaka. Here, it is alleged that dissidents were held and tortured under Sheikh Hasina's regime. Social media reacted to this with memes and dark humor. Some accused the Yunus government of staging the discoveries. Researcher and social activist Hazrat M. Hassan wondered at the use of iron chairs for giving electric shocks to inmates. He wrote, "I knew such chairs to be wooden with electric components attached." Further mocking Yunus government's cultural affairs advisor Mustafa Sarwar Farooqi, he wrote a tongue-in-cheek comment. The semi-literate Farooqi tried to implement what he saw in the movies. He should have instead consulted with the Pakistani spy agency ISI. Facebook user Ismutara Bona shared a picture of what a real electric chair should look like and compared it to the electric chair found in one of the Aina Ghars. So simply put, all of them accuse the Yunus government of staging the discoveries and thus indulging in propaganda. The question many are asking is, with the Yunus government launching a witch hunt against political dissidents and giving political patronage to Islamists targeting religious minorities, is anything changing now? Is Bangladesh truly changing for the better? Meanwhile, a report by a United Nations team on human rights abuses in Bangladesh is making headlines. Listen to this.
There are reasonable grounds to believe that certain crimes against humanity have been committed, directed against protesters and their supporters. We also documented serious acts of revenge that private individuals committed against supporters of the former ruling party, police officers, and in some cases people belonging to minority and distinct religious groups in the immediate aftermath of the protests.
Page 52 of the report makes direct references to revenge attacks on political rivals and targeted attacks on the Hindu community. It reads, violent mobs engaged in serious acts of revenge violence, including killings, targeting police and Awami League officials, especially from early August onwards. Some Hindus were also subjected to human rights abuses, including the burning of homes and attacks on places of worship with different underlying motivations. In fact, there were well over 200 attacks on Hindu temples, shops and businesses within 3 days of the fall of Dhaka, and numbers have since multiplied. So what happens to the political landscape of Bangladesh now, where an unelected government has been in power for over 6 months? Will parliamentary elections be held there anytime soon? The opposition in Bangladesh is pressing the Yunus government for early elections. But given Yunus's handling of the issue, a major political realignment is happening in Bangladesh. Allies are becoming enemies and enemies are becoming allies. Here's why. The BNP wanted early parliamentary elections in Bangladesh, but Yunus wanted them deferred on the ground that reforms in the electoral system, the judiciary, police and administration must be completed before elections are held. BNP says minimal reforms can be carried out before the elections and only a democratically elected government can have the mandate to carry out extensive reforms. It suspects that Yunus wants to defer the elections not only to remain in power but also to give time to the ADSM leaders to form their own political party. Since BNP does not want to give ADSM leaders time to establish and strengthen their party, this has put the BNP on a collision course with the Yunus regime. What's more, the bonhomie between Yunus and Jamaat-e-Islami has caused a rift between BNP and Jamaat, even though the two parties shared power in Bangladesh previously as allies. A section of the BNP leadership is now open to the idea of forming a covert alliance with the Awami League. Yes, you heard it right. BNP thinks such an alliance is necessary to foil the Yunus regime's moves against it and also to take on the Jamaat and the Islamists who are getting stronger with help from Pakistan and some other Islamic nations. The BNP has even come down strongly on proposals to rewrite the country's history to whitewash the role of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in the country's liberation from Pakistan. Its leaders condemned attacks on Mujibur Rahman's residence and leaders of Awami League. Now listen to US President Donald Trump's remarks on Bangladesh with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi by his side in Washington, D.C.
What you would like to say about the Bangladesh issue, because we saw and it is evident that how the deep state of United States was involved in regime change during the Biden administration, and then Muhammad Yunus made Junior Soros also. So what is your point of view about the Bangladesh?
Well, there was no role for our deep state. It was this is something that the Prime Minister has been working on for a long time and has been worked on for hundreds of years, frankly. I've been reading about it. But I will leave Bangladesh to the Prime Minister.
Trump's remarks have set off intense churn and speculation in political circles in Dhaka, since they imply that the US will not get directly involved in Bangladesh and will leave it to India to deal with its neighbor. Trump's position has upset calculations of the Yunus regime and the Islamists in the country who are hostile to India and had been planning with the help from Pakistan to create fresh trouble by supporting insurgent groups in India's northeast. Reports suggest Yunus was installed in power by some elements of the US deep state, Pakistan and Turkey. He has been banking on continued patronage of his benefactors in the US, like the Clinton Foundation, to entrench himself in power in the country. The new regime in Bangladesh, especially the leaders of the anti-discrimination students movement, who are now in positions of power and want to float their own political outfit, were also banking on the strong support of the US deep state and its spearheads like George Soros's Open Society Foundation or OSF to realize their ambitions. But with Trump coming to power in the US and launching the process of systematically dismantling the overseas outreach of the US deep state, the calculations of Yunus, leaders of the ADSM and Islamists in Bangladesh have gone haywire. Their worst nightmare was the withdrawal of patronage by the US deep state and its arms like the Clinton Foundation and OSF, and now that nightmare is coming true. What's rubbing salt in the wounds of Yunus and company is that the US is now leaving it to India to deal with Bangladesh. India's position is clear. While it seeks to continue to have friendly ties with Bangladesh, any substantive dialogue between the two countries will only happen once a democratically elected government is in place in Dhaka. Yunus and his advisors bristle at New Delhi's position, which denies their unelected government legitimacy. And being innately anti-India because of their Islamist backers, they continue to cultivate Pakistan to create trouble for India. Trump's statement that PM Modi is in the driver's seat has upset the anti-India plans. They now realize that any misadventure against India could cost them dearly. But more than 6 months after the unelected Yunus government came to power, the question still remains. Will Bangladesh go further down the path of anarchy, or will it revive democracy and preserve secularism? The next few months could be decisive for Bangladesh. This is the wreckage of Delta Airlines flight DL4819 at the runway of Toronto Pearson International Airport in Canada. The aircraft crashed while attempting to land. It turned upside down and caught fire on the runway.
It's upside down.
The incident happened earlier this week. Delta Airlines flight 4819 departed US city of Minneapolis on Monday morning.
Big traffic. Come on.
It carried 76 passengers and 4 crew members. So a total of 80 people were on board. It was an 86-minute flight. The plane touched down in Toronto at 2:15 p.m. local time. As it landed, the plane skidded along the runway and caught fire. It slid for some distance and then flipped over and stopped upside down. In the process, it lost its tail and one wing. Passengers were hanging upside down, held in place only by their seat belts. Emergency teams rushed to the crash site. They put out the fire and then helped get the passengers out of the plane. Over 20 passengers were injured, but thankfully, no deaths have been reported after the incident. Listen to some of the passengers on board DL4819.
As we made our descent and made touchdown, it was just a very forceful event where all of a sudden everything just kind of went sideways. And then next thing I know is kind of a blink and I'm upside down, still strapped in.
To me, it didn't feel like there was anything out of the ordinary, and there was no announcement. Pretty much just like hit the ground and then kind of like bounced. It almost felt like we were lifting off again, and we turned on our side, slid on our side for a little bit, and then ended upside down.
Peter spoke about how passengers helped each other in stepping out of the plane.
It was nice to see people working together, as in like no one held anyone back from like getting off the plane or like getting out of their seat or whatever. Like no one was like I need to be first or like whatever, you know. Everyone kind of like, we got off the plane like pretty smoothly, it felt like.
The plane that crashed was a CRJ-900 model twin-jet aircraft manufactured by Canadian aerospace company Bombardier. The flight was operated by Endeavour Air, a subsidiary of Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines is America's oldest operating airline. It operates 130 regional jets on 700 daily flights to over 126 cities in the US, Canada, and the Caribbean. Now, Delta Airlines is the world's largest operator of CRJ-900 aircraft, which was involved in the crash. CRJ-900 aircraft have been in service for decades and are said to be designed to handle inclement weather. Now, it's not clear what went so drastically wrong when the plane touched down. Why did the plane overturn? And why did the plane lose its right wing? Experts believe The plane likely had a hard landing, touching down with one wheel first. This could have caused the landing gear to collapse, the wing to hit the runway, and the plane to roll over. Weather may have also played a big role. Strong wind gusts up to 65 kilometers per hour blew through heavy snow. The airport had been blanketed with 22 centimeters of snow over the weekend. Experts say the pilots were likely using a crab maneuver to fight these strong winds, turning the plane into them just before touchdown. A team of over 20 Canadian investigators are leading the probe into the crash. They sent black boxes of the plane for lab analysis.
What we know so far is that this Bombardier CRJ-900 aircraft behind me, operated by Endeavour Airlines, was carrying 80 people. It was arriving at Pearson Airport from Minneapolis when it impacted the runway during landing. Following this initial impact, parts of the aircraft separated and a fire ensued. As you can see here, the fuselage came to rest slightly off the right side of the runway, upside down, facing the other direction.
How did everyone survive the plane flipping upside down? Experts attributed it to the smart design of the plane. First, the plane's body stayed intact. Experts say the wings detached as designed, preventing the main cabin from ripping apart. Planes are also built to cushion passengers during crashes. And of course, seat belts are crucial. They prevent people from being thrown around. Greater Toronto Airport's CEO Deborah Flint thanked the flight crew for their swift action in evacuating passengers.
Delta Airlines Flight 4819 from Minneapolis to Toronto, operated by subsidiary Endeavour Air, was involved in a single aircraft accident upon landing at Toronto Pearson. The plane was carrying 4 crew and 76 passengers, among them 22 Canadians. Flight attendants, flight crews, and airport emergency workers and responders mounted a textbook response, reaching the site within minutes and quickly evacuating the passenger.
Toronto Pearson International Airport is the largest and busiest airport in Canada. The last major crash at Pearson Airport happened in August 2005, involving Air France Flight 358 from Paris. The Airbus A340 aircraft skidded off the runway and caught fire during stormy weather. Fortunately, all 309 passengers and crew members on board survived the crash. This crash was the 4th major plane accident in North America in just 3 weeks. Earlier, 67 people died when a plane and a helicopter collided near Washington, D.C. on the 29th of January. Then, a medical plane crashed in Philadelphia on 31st January, killing 7 people. And just a week later, on 6th February, 10 people died in a plane crash in Alaska. And one of the most recent high-profile incident was of the Jeju Air Flight 7C2216 in December last year. The passenger aircraft crashed while landing at the Muan International Airport in South Korea, killing 179 people. The crash occurred after a suspected bird strike damaged the plane's landing gear. While the investigation into the Toronto plane crash continues, one truth stands out: the remarkable bravery of the passengers and crew and the enduring resilience of the human spirit. That's all in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We'll see you next week with more raging issues. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us in the Delhi newsroom. This is Munmun Bhattacharya signing off. Take care and stay safe.